Static buzzed, and then a holographic projection burst to life in the center of the room. A wireframe model of the half-built dreadnought spun, slowly displaying damage reports, resource inventories, and incomplete subsystems. Osei's voice came over the comm. We found storage units with old but usable materials. Armor plating, reactor components, even some outdated weapons. Barrett followed a moment later. Backup reactor coming online. Give us an hour and we'll have full lighting and life support. Naira grinned. For the first time since the Perseverance had been destroyed, she felt something other than rage. She felt hope. 2 hours later, the shipyard was alive with movement. The survivors worked relentlessly, clearing debris, restoring power to dormant machines, and assessing the colossal ship's structural integrity. The warship, once abandoned and forgotten, was beginning to wake. Standing before the massive hull, Naira ran a hand over the cold metal. It needed a name. Something powerful, something that would strike fear into their enemies. She glanced at the others, the survivors who had lost everything yet refused to surrender. The Retribution, she said softly. Barrett smirked. Fitting. Naira clenched her fists. The Xelari had shattered their fleet, killed their captain, but they had made one fatal mistake. They had left them alive, and soon humanity would return the favor. The days that followed were a frenzy of labor. What had started as a desperate scramble for survival had transformed into something greater. Something with purpose. The Retribution was waking up. Naira wiped sweat from her brow, staring up at the massive warship they were painstakingly bringing to life. Engineers worked tirelessly, welding armor plating into place, rerouting power conduits, and testing what few weapons they could salvage. The ship had been designed to be a fortress built for war before humanity had even realized it would need one. Now that war had come. We've got partial reactor power, Barrett reported, his voice crackling over the comms. Enough to get basic life support and internal systems running. Engines? Naira asked. Not yet, they were never fully installed. We're piecing them together from scrap, but it'll take time. Time, that was the one thing they didn't have. Naira turned to Castillo, who was hunched over a console running diagnostics. Weapons. Castillo sighed. Main batteries were never installed, but we found a stockpile of railgun components and a few missile warheads in storage. If we can rig them to fire manually, we'll have something. It's better than nothing, Naira said. Still won't be enough if the Xelari come back. Osei nodded. We need shields, thrusters, real firepower. Right now we're building a gunship with no gun and no way to fly. She wasn't wrong. The Retribution was powerful but incomplete. If the Xelari returned before they were ready, they wouldn't stand a chance. Then a thought struck Naira. We're not the only ones who hate the Xelari, she said. The others turned to her, confused. You're talking about the scavengers, Barrett realized. Naira nodded. The Xelari had conquered dozens of species, wiping out civilizations, enslaving survivors, and leaving ruins in their wake. There were others out there. Exiles, rebels, fugitives who had lost just as much as they had. If we can reach them, we can get the parts we need, Naira said. More than that. We can start something bigger. The Xelari think humanity is weak, but what if we show them we're not alone? Castillo hesitated. Even if we find them, why would they help us? Because we're not asking for charity, Naira said, determination hardening her voice. We're offering payback. They scoured the shipyard for anything that could send a signal. A long-range transmitter, a distress beacon, anything. Finally, deep within the command center, Castillo found an old communication relay, rusted and half-buried beneath debris. It's ancient, but it might still work, he said, running a diagnostic. Naira didn't hesitate. She activated the relay, fingers flying over the console. A moment later, the signal was live. This is Lieutenant Naira of the Retribution, she said, her voice firm. Humanity has been attacked, our fleet is gone, our people slaughtered, but we are not finished. We are building something. Something strong enough to fight back. If you've lost everything to the Xelari, if you want revenge, then join us, help us finish this ship, and we'll make them pay. She sent the message on every frequency she could. Then they waited. Would anyone answer? Would they even reach anyone? They had no way of knowing, but Naira believed one thing with absolute certainty. The Xelari thought they had crushed humanity. They had only lit the fire of something far worse. Days passed with no response. The survivors of the Perseverance worked tirelessly, but tension hung over them like a storm cloud. The Retribution was coming together piece by painstaking piece, yet without the resources to fully restore its engines and shields, it remained a sitting target. They needed help. Naira stood on the shipyard's highest platform, staring out into the abyss of space. Every moment that passed, she wondered if she had made a mistake. The Xelari had already silenced every potential ally had their message gone unheard. Then on the 6th day the comms crackled to life. Castillo bolted upright from his station. "We're getting a response." Naira sprinted to the console, heart hammering. "Put it through." The screen flickered and a face appeared. Alien but not Xelari, the creature had deep-set amber eyes, leathery skin and ridges running along its brow. When it spoke its voice was gravelly and weary. "You are human," it said, its tone unreadable. Naira straightened. "I am Lieutenant Naira, formerly of the Perseverance." A long silence, then the alien gave a slow nod. "My name is Vesk," he said. "I was once a warrior of the Drari Dominion. My world burned when the Xelari came. My people are scattered, dying. You say you are building a weapon against them." "We are," Naira said firmly. "We have the ship, but we need parts. Weapons, engines, shields. We need allies." Vesk exhaled heavily as if weighing a great burden. "You are either brave or foolish human, perhaps both." He leaned forward, his amber eyes narrowing. "But I have waited too long to see the Xelari bleed." The transmission cut. Silence. Castillo turned to her, confused. "Did he just—" Then the sensors blared. "Multiple contacts inbound." Barrett rushed to the scanners. 3 ships just jumped into the system. "Xelari?" Naira asked, her stomach twisting. "No," Barrett said, staring at the readings. "They're old Drari warships. He's coming." Naira felt a surge of adrenaline. It was happening. Hours later the 3 ships touched down on the barren moon. The Drari warriors disembarked, their battle-scarred armor gleaming in the dim light. They moved with practiced efficiency, their eyes scanning the shipyard with quiet approval. Vesk stepped forward. "This is your ship?" he asked, looking up at the unfinished Retribution. "It will be," Naira said. Vesk turned to his men, then back to her. "You will need more than us, but you have made the first step." Naira felt a weight lift off her shoulders. This was more than just help, this was proof that they weren't alone. She extended a hand. "Then let's build something the Xelari will never forget." Vesk hesitated, then grasped her wrist in a warrior's handshake. "And let's make them fear it." The shipyard was no longer just a graveyard of forgotten war machines. It was alive with the arrival of the Drari. Everything changed. The once struggling human survivors now had reinforcements, skilled engineers and warriors hardened by years of fighting the Xelari. They brought not only knowledge but supplies. Salvaged armor plating, advanced shielding components, and most importantly weapons, real weapons. Naira stood on an upper platform watching as the combined force of humans and Drari worked side by side, welding armor into place, connecting power conduits, and installing the first of the ship's railgun turrets. The Retribution was no longer a half-finished relic, it was becoming a war machine. Vesk approached, his heavy footfalls echoing on the metal floor. "Your people are quick learners," he admitted. "They do not waste time." Naira smirked. "We don't have time to waste." Vesk nodded, folding his arms. "But speed alone is not enough. We must test your crew." Naira's brow furrowed. "Test how?" The Drari warrior motioned to a group of his own people who were gathered near the ship's cargo bay. "In battle," he said simply. The training was brutal. The Drari had no patience for hesitation or weakness. They fought with a ferocity that stunned the human survivors, teaching them close-quarters combat, squad tactics, and how to handle the advanced weaponry they had brought with them. Naira herself was thrown into the ring against Vesk on the first day. The Drari warrior was taller, stronger, and faster. He barely broke a sweat as he dodged her punches and sent her sprawling onto the hard deck. "You hesitate," Vesk growled, stepping back. "You think too much against the Xelari. You will not have time to think. You strike or you die." Naira wiped blood from her lip and got back up. "Then let's go again." Vesk smiled for the first time. 3 days passed, and the Retribution was almost ready for its first test flight. "Main reactors are fully operational," Barrett reported. "Engines are patched together, but they should hold. Shields at 60% efficiency," Castillo added. "Not perfect, but it's better than nothing." "The main guns?" Naira asked. Vesk spoke this time. "We have installed 4 railguns. They are crude but powerful. The missile launchers are operational as well." Naira exhaled, looking at the massive warship before them. "Then let's take her up." The Retribution lifted off the barren moon with a deep, bone-rattling rumble. The entire shipyard trembled as the engines roared to life, kicking up clouds of dust as the dreadnought slowly ascended into space. On the bridge, Naira gripped the captain's chair. She wasn't supposed to be here. This wasn't supposed to be her ship, but fate had chosen otherwise. She wouldn't fail. "All systems stable," Castillo confirmed, eyes locked on the display. Barrett let out a whistle. She flies, Captain. Naira allowed herself a small smile. Then the alarms blared. Incoming ships, Osei shouted, Xelari scout vessels. 3 of them. Everyone on the bridge tensed. The Xelari had returned. Naira clenched her fists. This time humanity wasn't running. This time they were the ones with the bigger gun. The red lights bathed the bridge in an eerie glow. The Retribution was barely operational. Its systems patched together from scraps, its weapons hastily installed, and now the Xelari had returned. How long until they're in weapons range? Naira asked, gripping the armrests of her chair. 30 seconds, Osei reported. They haven't seen us yet, but they will soon. Vesk stepped forward, arms crossed. 3 scout ships. Lightly armored but fast. If they escape, they'll alert the Xelari fleet. That wasn't an option. Are our weapons online? Naira turned to Barrett. Railguns are loaded, but we don't have targeting computers yet, Barrett said. We'll have to fire manually. Naira took a deep breath. Then we don't give them a chance to run. Ready the guns. The bridge crew moved in perfect sync. The ship's newly installed railguns rotated toward the incoming vessels, silent and waiting. Here they come, Castillo muttered. The Xelari ships spotted them a second too late. Fire, Naira shouted. The Retribution roared. Naira nodded. That's why we're taking the fight to them. Vesk tilted his head. You plan to strike first? We don't have a choice, Naira said. We can't just run forever. The Retribution wasn't built to hide. It was built to make them afraid. Silence stretched between them, then slowly, a grin spread across Vesk's scarred face. Then let us teach them fear. The Retribution's engines flared to life, lifting the massive warship from the barren moon's surface. Dust and debris scattered beneath it as the ship climbed toward the stars. Plotting a course, Castillo said. Where are we going? Naira's fingers tightened around the armrest of her chair. She had spent the last 2 days analyzing every piece of intelligence they had. The Xelari had dozens of outposts, supply lines, and strongholds across the sector. Striking their fleet directly was suicide, but there was one target, one that could send a message. Their nearest refueling station, Naira said. They use it to resupply before launching attacks. We hit it hard. We cut off a chunk of their forces from the main fleet. Barrett whistled. Damn, that's bold. It's necessary, Naira said. We're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for everyone they've stepped on. We have to show them they're not invincible. Vesk let out a deep chuckle. Now this is war. The Retribution surged forward, breaking free of the moon's weak gravity, heading straight for the heart of the enemy's war machine. The Xelari had started this fight, but now humanity was going to finish it.